Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at the upcoming rotation. I've been doing this for a few years now. When we hit March, I start looking at the rotation, what's coming, and what you need to expect. Now, the issue of what the rotation is going to be, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not as exciting to predict the rotation as it has been in the past. And the reason very simply is that they've kind of told us. Sorry. You see, last year they told us about the regulation marks, and they told us for the 2021 season, all cards with a deregulation mark are legal to use in tournaments. And I don't know if they've actually said it explicitly, but they basically told us they're going up by one regulation mark per year. So if the 2021 season, which started last year, is going to go D onwards, then the 2022 season, which is starting in late August, beginning of September, that is going to be regulation mark E onwards. The only alternative is they don't rotate at all, and I know we've basically missed 2 years of in-person tournaments, but we still had 3 main sets releasing per year, and basically, we're going to have a rotation. And the reason we are going to have a rotation is because when you let it go too long, you end up with issues like an expanded, with too many sets, unintended consequences, things of that nature. Basically, we are going to have a rotation. Now, I cannot actually tell you for 100% certainty that we are going to have a rotation. Obviously, I don't actually know that. But come on, ladies and gentlemen, the chances of not having a rotation, for the reasons I outlined a second ago, are basically, they're not exactly zero, but they're pretty gosh darn close to zero. Which is going to lead us essentially into a Battle Styles on format. Not exactly, but essentially a Battle Styles on format. Which means that everything from Battle Styles onwards is going to be legal for tournament play, and everything before Battle Styles is going to have rotated out. But if you're unsure, look at your card. If it's got an E on it, you're good. If it's got a D on it, you're bad. There we go. The big question is this going to happen before or after the World Championships? We have now had confirmation that Worlds will be happening in London. I am very excited. For anyone wondering, yes, I will be there. No, I don't have an invite, so I'm not entirely sure in what capacity I will be there, but if nothing else, I'll be hanging around outside the venue looking sad, and you can all come and say hello and cheer me up. But we don't know what's going to happen with the rotation as to whether it's going to be before or after Worlds. And some people are going to tell you that it will be before Worlds or will be after Worlds. They don't know. The only people that do know work for the Pokémon company, and they're not going to tell you because if they did, they'd get fired. Nobody knows if it's going to be before or after Worlds. If the rotation happens and gets rid of the first year of Sword and Shield, including cards like Zacian, those cards are never going to have had a World Championships in which to compete. And as I'm going to show you in a minute, getting rid of the first set of Sword and Shield is not really going to change the decks we're playing. So honestly, I think, and I don't know, this is a prediction, nothing more, I think they're going to lean to no. If I worked for the Pokemon Company, and let's be clear, I don't, but if I did work for the Pokemon Company, I wouldn't rotate before Worlds. It's something we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, as soon as an announcement is made, there will be a video on this channel, hopefully within about an hour, because that's how long it takes to make the video. And that really is the only question. I think a rotation is a given, and rotation to regulation mark E onwards is a given, but it does remain to be seen whether it will be before or after Worlds. So what does that mean? Well, that means we are going to be losing Sword and Shield, Rebel Clash, Darkness Ablaze, and Vivid Voltage. All of those sets are going. Those are the 4 main sets in year 1 of the Pokemon TCG. We are also then losing Champion's Path, because that is all regulation mark D. And we're losing some of Shining Fates, but not all. So if we look at a card like Delmise V Max, for instance, that's got a regulation mark D, that is being rotated. But Celebi, as an example, has regulation mark E, and that will be staying. The reason essentially is regulation mark D was year 1 of the Sword and Shield TCG, regulation mark E was year 2. Well, Shining Fates for us is made up of a bunch of Japanese products, some of which fell into year 1 of the Sword and Shield TCG, and some of which dropped into year 2. And that's why we end up with this weird situation. Shining Fates, some of it's rotating, some of it isn't, whereas the other 5 sets I named, all of them are rotating. There we go. So with all of that borne in mind, we really need to look at what the impact is going to be. Because you guys could have predicted the rotation. I just did. The issue is what's actually going to happen to the rotation. And I told you that most of the big decks aren't leaving, and that's true. Because if we go to like Salt Lake City as an example, and we look at the decks that did really well, okay, Mew Genesect didn't actually do brilliantly, but it did up until the event, and we expect it to in the future. So we can look at Mew Genesect. Yeah, they're both staying there from Fusion Strike. Gengar VMAX had a great showing. That's from Fusion Strike. We had Suicune. That was a really good deck that did very well. Yeah, that's from Evolving Skies. Arceus. Arceus deck's absolutely crushing right now. Arceus is from Brilliant Stars. And the only partner that Arceus really had that made any noise at Salt Lake City Regionals, or really in any tournament up till now, has been Malamar VMAX. Now, to be fair, Malamar VMAX is going. That is about the one. Malamar VMAX is about the one proper good attacker that is going to be leaving when we hit the rotation. And like I say, we did see Malamar VMAX doing quite well over at Salt Lake City. That was back in Rebel Clash, we got that one. But that's about it. That is about the one Pokemon that is actually having an impact in terms of being a really good attacking Pokemon, being central to a deck, which is then going away. Although I suppose I should mention, some people are still playing Dragapult. It's not the biggest deck around right now, it is not the best deck around right now, but Dragapult is still seeing enough play that I suppose I should mention it a little bit. The big issue when we get round to rotation is going to be the support cards and things of that nature, and actually, quite a lot of them we are going to be losing. And honestly, the biggest one right now, or at least one of the biggest, the weirdest if nothing else, Rare Candy. As it stands at the moment, the most recent print of Rare Candy that we had was back in Sword and Shield, the base set. They haven't released it since, so as it stands at the moment, Rare Candy is rotating out. Now, I've got to believe it's not. Now, we haven't seen all the cards from Astral Radiance. We've seen a bunch, but we've not seen them all. And that's our May set. We are also getting an August set, which may or may not be legal for the World Championships. That is another question we have to answer down the road. I've got to imagine one of those two sets is going to have Rare Candy in. Rare Candy is a card which always gets reprinted. It never rotates out. As it stands at the moment, it is rotating out, but you've got to imagine they're going to reprint it. Otherwise, Stage 2 decks aren't great as it stands at the moment, but we are going to end up in a situation where Stage 2 decks are just absolute garbage. Because the other Stage 2s, the ones that really see play at the moment, are basically Inteleon, because they're based around the Drizzle and Inteleon from Sword and Shield. Now, the good news is, the one from Chilling Reign, the one that drops all those damage counters, that is absolutely staying around. We'll still have that one. But Drizzle, you evolve into it, you get to search for any trainer card. Inteleon, you evolve into it, you get to search for any two. These have been at the center of many, many different archetypes ever since they came out. And yeah, I know we've still got the Inteleon from Chilling Reign, but come on, without that Drizzle, it's nowhere near as good a card. And to be honest, if we lose Rare Candy as well, it basically becomes unplayable. Or at least significantly worse. So the Inteleon line is going to hurt. There's no way we get a reprint of that. You don't generally tend to get Pokemon reprints. Not, to save them from rotation. Not like we would something like Rare Candy. So the loss of the Inteleon line is going to be really big. Marnie is another card we're losing. This one's not quite so big. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Marnie is great. I know people love playing Marnie. I know that Marnie is one of the most played cards in the game right now. But we are having Judge. And I am fully aware that if Judge was better than Marnie, more people would be playing Judge and fewer people would be playing Marnie. This is all not news to me. I understand all of this. But what I'm saying is, Judge will jump in. It's not perfect, but it is still a supporter card that gets your opponent's hand away and gives them a new hand, while allowing you to also draw a new hand. You shuffle the cards in rather than putting them at the bottom of your deck, and that can be big, because if you know your opponent's got the card you need, forcing them to put them at the bottom means they're not going to draw back into them. That can be huge. Whereas Judge, they could literally draw right back into them. And I know that Marnie gets you a 5th card and Judge doesn't. I know they're not the same, but it's close enough that it's not going to make that big a difference. But we are losing a bunch of Pokemon Search, the biggest of which is Quick Ball. Quick Ball at the moment is like a 4 of in every deck. Pretty much every deck plays 4 Quick Ball, because discard a card from your hand, go and search for a Pokemon. It's absolutely huge. And at this stage, some of you are probably thinking, come on, Wassy, didn't we just get a reprint of Quick Ball in Fusion Strike? And the answer is yes. Yes, we did. But they didn't update the regulation mark. The Quick Ball we got in Fusion Strike is still regulation mark D. As a side note, this would have been a great opportunity for Pokemon to have reprinted it with a regulation mark of E. The fact that they consciously chose not to means that a reprint of Quick Ball is unlikely. Doesn't mean it's not coming, but it does mean it's unlikely. Along with that, we're also losing Great Ball. And look, Great Ball isn't great. We don't see that much play of it. But it's still a card that lets you get your Pokemon. It's still going away. Evolution Incense, an item card to search out your evolved Pokemon. That's also going away. And Capture Energy, that special energy that when you attach it lets you search for a Pokemon and bench it. That unfortunately was Rebel Clash. So that means that you're losing that one as well and you're not going to have access to it. And frankly, this is hurting our Pokemon Search. It just is. We're still going to have Ultra Ball, which is lovely. That's a really good card. Discard any 2 cards from your hand and then search for any Pokemon. Ultra Ball's great, and Ultra Ball's basically just become a 4 of in every deck. But that doesn't mean we're not also going to miss the other cards that we're losing. We're seeing Battle VIP Pass see a whole bunch of play at the moment. I've been testing a lot with this lately, and it searches any 2 basic Pokemon and benches them on your first turn, but only on your first turn. I played 4 games the other day, and I had no copies of it turn 1 in any game, except the 2 times I mulliganed, and both times I mulliganed, I had 2 copies in my hand. And I know that's not indicative, it's a terrible sample size. My point is, this is not some brilliant replacement for Quick Ball, it's a nice bonus. If you want a card like Luminion, more on that in a moment, you need to search it out and be able to play it to get the ability. Battle VIP Pass puts the Pokemon straight onto your bench, so you don't get abilities like you would with Luminion. Our Pokemon Search is not looking as good. Oh, I should mention we will also still have Level Ball, and Level Ball's cool, but it only gets 90 HP Pokemon, so again, if you're looking for things like Luminion, great example, because a lot of the times you will be, you're not going to be able to get it. Our Pokemon Search options are taking quite a big hit when we get to the rotation. And it's worth pointing out that our Pokemon Draw are as well. Now, the good news is, as much as Tinchino is rotating, and that makes me sad because I adore that card, one of my favourite cards in the game, we're getting Lipard. And Lipard can't be searched with Level Ball, which actually really sucks. And Lipard's attack is nowhere near as good, but it's the same ability, so I really wish I could search it with Level Ball, but it's still a decent replacement, will be fine. But we're losing Zacian V, that great ability that lets you draw 3 cards and end your turn, and not for nothing, also lets you attach any energy you find to Zacian. That's really good. We're losing that. And we're getting Zamazenta. Zamazenta came around in Brilliant Stars. Same kind of thing. Discard your hand, draw 5 cards, ends your turn. It will replace Zacian in a bunch of decks, but it's not quite the same. We're also losing Crobat. That's the one that lets you draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. Yes, that's been reprinted like a billion times, but it's never been reprinted with a new regulation mark, so that one's going. And we're losing Eldegoss. And do bear in mind, Eldegoss lets you recover a supporter card from your discard pile. It's seen a bunch of play. It's a good card. It got a reprint in Champion's Path with new artwork, but not a new regulation mark. And that one is gonna kind of suck. Also, we are losing Auron Guru, which still sees a huge amount of play. That's one that lets you swap the top card of your deck for a card in your hand. And that one, it's just going. It's a lovely card, but we don't get to keep it around. It's gone. The good news is we've got the aforementioned Luminion and the aforementioned Zamazenta, and we are still going to have Kricketune, so it's not like we've got no drawing options. But, I mean, one of the themes here is, if the replacement cards were as good, they would be seeing more play before we hit the rotation. And in a lot of ways, they're not. So to finish off on a little bit of a speed round, some types are actually losing their energy acceleration, and that's a bit sad. Water is losing Frostmoth. Now, they are still going to have Melanie, which we know in a lot of decks is good enough. Only accelerates 1, but it has proven to be good enough as a card in a bunch of decks, but you are losing Frostmoth. Metal decks are losing Metal Saucer, which has been, a slam dunk inclusion in Metal decks since it came out. So that is genuinely a little bit sad. Although it's not a card that sees a huge amount of play, we are seeing that B is rotating out. And honestly, although it's not great, fighting just does not have great energy acceleration. So it's one of those beggars can't be choosers situations. I don't think it's a stunning card. Hasn't seen a huge amount of play. But come on, fighting don't have much else. So it is a card which keeps popping up in fighting decks because they just don't have very much else. Air Balloon is rotating out, and that means that our retreating options are really getting hurt. I think they probably will give us some kind of retreating tool card in the near future, although I've gone on record to say I really don't think it's going to be Floatstone. But that rotating out is actually going to hurt, because that is your go-to retreating item card, and we just don't have a great replacement for it. Twin Energy is being rotated, and I know we've got double turbo energy. The problem is, if you look at a deck like Wormadam, and I love a deck like Wormadam, you want to play 4 Twin Energy, and you want to play 4 double turbo, so that you've got 8 in total. Plus double turbo means you do 20 less damage, which is actually, really sad. The fact of the matter is, a deck like Wormadam that really wants to just use double colourless energy is going to go from having 8 available in the deck, they only need 6 attacks, 8 is quite easy to find, to having 4 available. Well, now they don't have enough to pull off 6 attacks in the game, and it's much harder to find. This is going to really hurt these single prize decks that rely on Twin Energy and double turbo, and that's really sad. Ordinary Rod is rotating out. And honestly, in terms of Pokemon recovery, this is pretty much the best option we've had for a while now. We've got some others. Rescue Carrier's nice, but do bear in mind Rescue Carrier's only 90 HP Pokemon, so it's not perfect. And also Clara, but Clara's a supporter, so again, very much not perfect. It makes me sad that we don't have these brilliant options to replace them. All I can tell you is, sorry, I wish we did. And then the last card I'm going to shout out here is Scoop Up Net. We're losing Scoop Up Net. And actually, Scoop Up Net is a great card that sees a huge amount of play, and now we're not going to have it anymore. That's going to make an impact. That is genuinely going to make an impact on all of these single prize decks that love playing it. It is going to be one that is missed by a whole bunch of people. And while we're here, it is also worth pointing out that Galarian Zigzagoon, which has always been one of the best uses for it, is also rotating. And there are so many decks out there that love playing Galarian Zigzagoon to just get that tiny little extra poke of damage. It is going to make a real big difference. And what we're going to see, like I said earlier, is not really all the best decks going away, but just really annoying things. So, for instance, Jolteon is a really good deck at the moment, but losing Galarian Zigzagoon is going to have a big impact. Suicune is a real top deck at the moment, but losing the Inteleon line is going to have a big impact. That will, incidentally, on Jolteon as well. And it's going to be little things like that. We're not losing all the big attackers, but we are losing enough support cards that it will make a bit of a difference. It's going to be interesting to see whether we rotate before or after Worlds, but I really do think we're in a situation where it's going to make enough of an impact to hurt decks without actually getting rid of any decks. I wouldn't rotate before Worlds if it was up to me, but as I've already told you, it is very much not up to me. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we know. That's what's happening and what I think is happening. though we can't know for certain. And it is predictions, and I've made very clear it is predictions. So now it's over to you guys. What do you think about this? When are we rotating? What are the biggest losses going to be? Which cards are you going to miss? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.